You've probably felt it before. That moment when you start questioning whether any of this even matters. You take a simple walk, sit quietly for a few minutes, choose water over soda, and when you wake up the next day, everything looks exactly the same. Nothing's changed. So you ask yourself, am I just wasting my time? Here's the truth they never shared with you. Reality doesn't track transformation through speed. It tracks through signal strength, which means every minor action, every microscopic choice toward alignment is broadcasting waves through your entire energetic system, whether you notice it happening or not. This is what I call the quantum ripple effect, the fundamental truth that nothing you do stands alone. Every decision, regardless of how insignificant it appears, creates a chain reaction of energetic outcomes. And these outcomes aren't merely personal, they're frequency-based. They're delivering blueprints to your future, to the connections you'll form, to the circumstances that will intersect with your path in ways your logical mind can't anticipate. Picture yourself beside an enormous, perfectly still body of water. You release a single stone into it, so small it barely has weight. But watch the surface. Ripples move outward, spreading quietly in every direction. You can't direct where those waves travel, yet they travel. They expand. They reach everything. This is what occurs each time you make a choice that resonates with who you're becoming, no matter how subtle. One conscious breath, one moment of gratitude written down, one pause before you respond, one boundary you honor. The universe isn't measuring the size of your action. It's registering the energetic signature it produces. Here's what most people overlook. The field is never deaf to you. It's simply mirroring back the frequency you're transmitting, and more importantly, the steadiness of that frequency. This isn't about how intense your efforts are. This is about how coherent they are. It's never the isolated decision to eat something nourishing that rewires your physical system. It's the wave pattern generated when you repeat that decision, when you believe in it, when you bring full awareness to it. Over time, these wave patterns merge. They construct a larger current, and that current lifts you into a version of reality you couldn't have reached through sheer force alone. Let me make this tangible. Tomorrow morning arrives and you choose, not with drama, not with ceremony, just with quiet intention, that you'll spend 3 minutes in stillness before your day unfolds. Not to achieve enlightenment, not to summon material abundance, simply to meet yourself. That subtle choice generates a ripple. Your day begins with slightly more groundedness. Perhaps you don't lash out at someone the way you typically would. Perhaps you select a more nourishing breakfast. Perhaps that clarity carries into your work. Then suddenly, an insight emerges. You send that message you've been avoiding. Someone answers. A pathway opens. None of this was apparent from where you started. It didn't appear as though your future was shifting. But it was. This is the contradiction. The most profound transformations often disguise themselves as the smallest actions, because when those actions are repeated with full presence, they reshape how you communicate with the field. And the field, infinitely intelligent, perpetually receptive, starts reorganizing itself around your new signal. If this is resonating with you, if you're feeling the truth of this quantum perspective, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps this frequency reach more people who need to hear it. We've been taught that change arrives through dramatic leaps, through monumental decisions, through breakthroughs and crises. But quantum reality doesn't operate in theatrics. It operates in vibration, in precise calibration, in selecting a different timeline before any evidence confirms it's working. This is the true nature of habits, not mechanical routines, not productivity systems. They are daily pronouncements of who you are. They're your method of communicating to the field the identity you've chosen. And when you maintain that signal with enough consistency, reality starts collapsing into alignment with it. This is why nothing is ever lost. Not a single breath, not a single step, not one microsecond of alignment. They're all stones. They're all ripples. They're all sculpting a lake your eyes haven't yet witnessed. The genuine shift emerges when you stop demanding immediate validation and start trusting the quantum principle of accumulating vibration. Because eventually, those ripples amplify into a wave powerful enough to carry you beyond the version of reality you believed you were trapped inside. So if you've been holding out for some massive breakthrough, pause for a moment, draw in a breath, and release a new stone today. That glass of water, that body stretch, that single page of the book you've been postponing, that brief moment of meditation, that tiny decision isn't insignificant. It's a quantum instruction, a broadcast announcing, "This is who I've become." And the universe never ignores declarations of identity spoken with frequency. In what follows, we'll examine how these invisible waves of behavior shape your existence in ways that surpass what effort alone could ever accomplish. You'll discover why your most powerful rituals are frequently the smallest ones. And you'll understand how to transform your everyday life into a laboratory of quantum alignment, one ripple at a time. There's an unusual kind of power that lives inside ordinary moments, but only when you know where to look. How you care for yourself in the morning, how you prepare your first drink, how you address yourself before the world demands your attention. These instances don't appear transformative, they don't feel profound, but from a quantum perspective, they are. Because every seemingly insignificant behavior is a transmission, and your field receives it even when your conscious mind doesn't. Contemporary science labels this habit stacking or behavioral anchoring. But in the quantum dimension, we understand it as vibrational sequencing. It's the invisible network of micro-choices that either bring you into coherence or drag you into disorder. And that alignment or misalignment accumulates over time, not through dramatic explosions, but through subtle, nearly invisible layers. Picture this. You wake up behind schedule. You bypass the conscious breath. You immediately reach for your device. Your nervous system tightens. You step into your day already out of harmony. You feel rushed, scattered, reactive. And later, when you attempt to correct the day through positive statements, or a healthy meal or a meditation session, something feels off. Why? Because the ripple already began. The sequence was established. Now imagine the alternative. Same morning, but you wake and place both feet on the floor with intention. You stop. You breathe. You whisper something kind to yourself. Today, I align with what's real. You drink your water with purpose. You tune into your body rather than external noise. In that simple adjustment, you've altered your trajectory, not just emotionally, but energetically. The ripple you just initiated won't merely improve your morning. It might reshape an entire opportunity 5 days from now. You just modified the timeline without forcing anything. You just engaged the quantum butterfly effect, and it started with how you entered your routine. I'm curious, what's one small morning ritual you've been thinking about starting, or one you already practice that's shifted something for you? Drop it in the comments. Your words might be the permission someone else needs to begin their own ripple. This isn't coincidence. it's resonance. The quantum field doesn't respond to the magnitude of actions. It responds to their precision, and that's what transforms everything. You don't need to add more to create change. You simply need to stop dispersing your energy. You need to bring coherence into the present moment. Because it's not about what you do that creates impact. It's about how complete you are while doing it. Let's get closer to this. Have you noticed how when you skip your morning movement, your eating patterns shift? Or when you sleep past your alarm, you speak to yourself with more harshness? Or when you abandon your journaling, you become more reactive in conversations? These aren't random. They're energetic chain reactions. Your system is attempting to regulate from a diminished frequency, and it compensates through fragmented behaviors. The reality is this: there is no isolated habit. Every action influences another. Every vibration weaves itself into what follows. Every choice becomes an energetic tuning fork for the field you're about to enter. And here's what people consistently miss. They believe they need one breakthrough habit, the single thing that will revolutionize everything. But in quantum reality, it's not about the biggest thing. It's about the first thing. The foundation, the initial spark that recalibrates the dozen micro-choices that follow. This is why how you begin your morning matters so deeply. Not because morning routines are fashionable, but because your opening frequency establishes the tone for how you'll interact with the field throughout your entire day. When your first action carries chaos, the field mirrors chaos back. When it carries presence, the field mirrors clarity back. This isn't spiritual consequence. This is physics. None of this means every morning requires flawlessness. You don't need hour-long meditations in nature. You don't need elaborate wellness rituals and exotic supplements. What you need is conscious entry into the field of your own existence. And that can happen in 30 seconds. One breath, one truthful statement, and the accumulation effect. That's where transformation occurs. Because that single moment of morning presence makes you marginally more aware during your next meal. That awareness while eating provides just enough clarity to navigate a conversation with less reactivity. That cleaner exchange shifts your emotional state for the afternoon, which influences your decision to finally place that call, which creates an opening. And that opening transforms everything. Not because you engineered it, but because you cultivated it. And it began with how you held your morning coffee. Let me show you something most people never consider. Your habits aren't just personal rituals. They're energetic agreements with reality. Every time you repeat a behavior, you're essentially signing a contract with the universe that says, "This is the frequency I choose to broadcast from." And the universe, being the perfect mirror that it is, honors that contract without question. Think about the person who hits snooze 5 times every morning. They're not just losing sleep. They're broadcasting a signal that says, "I negotiate with my own commitments. I don't trust my own decisions. My first act of the day is self-betrayal." That signal doesn't stay isolated to the morning. It permeates every interaction, every opportunity, every choice throughout the day. The field receives that frequency and returns circumstances that match it. Now consider someone else who wakes with their alarm, not because they feel like it, but because they've decided that's who they are now. That decision, repeated daily, broadcasts a completely different signal. I honor my word to myself. I am someone who follows through. My first act is alignment. The field receives this frequency and begins organizing reality around someone who keeps commitments. Neither of these people may consciously recognize what's happening. But the field doesn't require your conscious awareness to respond. It simply matches the frequency you most consistently transmit. This is why two people can take the same action, like going to the gym, and experience vastly different results. One person shows up with resentment, checking the clock, mentally somewhere else. The other shows up with presence, honoring their body, grateful for the capacity to move. Same action, completely different frequencies, completely different results over time. This brings us to something crucial about the nature of quantum habits. They're not about the external action. They're about the internal coherence you bring to that action. You could meditate for an hour with a scattered, doubting mind and create less shift than someone who breathes consciously for 60 seconds with complete presence. The universe isn't measuring duration, it's measuring depth. I've watched this play out in countless ways. There's the person who drinks 8 glasses of water daily while scrolling through their phone, barely tasting it, treating it as another task to check off. Then there's the person who drinks 3 glasses of water with full attention, feeling the liquid enter their body, thanking it for hydration, connecting with the simple miracle of nourishment. Who do you think is sending a stronger signal to their biology? Who do you think is creating a deeper ripple? The second person isn't just hydrating, they're practicing presence. They're cultivating gratitude. They're honoring their body. And those frequencies, presence, gratitude, honor, those are the frequencies that reshape reality. Not the water itself, the consciousness brought to the water. This is where most self-improvement approaches completely miss the point. They focus on behavior modification without understanding frequency transformation. They'll tell you to drink more water, exercise more, meditate longer, as if the quantity alone creates change. But quantum reality operates differently. It responds to quality of presence, not quantity of action. Here's what this means practically. You don't need to add 17 new habits to your morning routine. You don't need to wake up at 4 in the morning to outwork everyone else. You don't need to become someone you're not. You need to bring more consciousness to who you already are and what you're already doing. What if you took your morning shower with complete presence tomorrow? Feeling the water on your skin, noticing the temperature, expressing gratitude for clean water, for warmth, for the miracle of indoor plumbing that billions of humans throughout history never experienced. That 5-minute shower, taken with full presence, becomes a meditation. It becomes a practice. It becomes a ripple. What if you ate one meal tomorrow with 0 distractions? No phone, no television, no reading, no multitasking. Just you and your food, tasting each bite, chewing slowly, noticing textures and flavors, thanking the earth that grew it, the people who harvested it, the systems that delivered it to you. That single meal becomes a ceremony. It becomes sacred. It becomes a transmission to the field that says, I am present in my life. This is the hidden power that lives inside the mundane. Every moment is a portal. Every action is an opportunity. Every choice is a broadcast. But only when you bring consciousness to it. Only when you stop sleepwalking through your own existence and start inhabiting it fully. And here's what happens when you do this consistently. Your entire relationship with reality begins to shift. You stop feeling like life is something happening to you. You start recognizing that life is something happening through you, as you, because of you. You stop being a passive recipient of circumstances and start becoming a conscious creator of frequency. People around you will notice something's different, though they won't be able to name it. They'll say things like, "You seem lighter," or "There's something calming about being around you," or "I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it." What they're actually sensing is coherence. They're feeling the stability of your signal. They're responding to the frequency of your presence. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because as your frequency stabilizes, you start attracting different people, different opportunities, different circumstances, not through manipulation or strategy, but through resonance. The field connects matching frequencies. It's not personal, it's physics. This is the hidden sacredness woven through daily existence. The quantum ripple effect isn't mystical, it's structural. It's how the universe magnifies what you embody. Not later, immediately. But the field carries no judgment. It simply mirrors. It simply responds. It simply calibrates to whatever you consistently feed it. So the essential question becomes, what signal are you transmitting? In the coming minutes, we'll explore what happens when those ripples are repeated, refined, and trusted, not merely for days, but as a fundamental way of existing. You'll witness how the tiny becomes magnetic, how the invisible becomes unavoidable, and how your smallest choices construct your future self's foundation. You don't need a revolution. You need a rhythm. A rhythm so authentic, so subtle, and so consistent that the quantum field has no option but to recognize you. Because what you repeat with presence becomes sacred, and what becomes sacred reconstructs your reality. Let's dissolve the myth that says go big or disappear. In quantum terms, moving small with coherence will always surpass moving big with chaos. Because within the field, alignment amplifies everything. And sometimes what appears to be the tiniest shift actually transmits the strongest signal you could possibly send to the universe. You don't need to accept this. You simply need to remember it. Let me share something with you. There was someone who felt she'd completely lost her creative spark. Years had passed since she'd written a single word. Each time she attempted to restart, overwhelm consumed her. "I can't write a book," she'd tell herself. "I don't have the time. I don't even know how to begin." So she never began. For 5 years, that longing remained dormant, until one morning she made herself a promise. 5 minutes of journaling daily. Just 5 minutes. No structure, no expectations. The first week felt meaningless. The second week, she observed her internal language shifting. By the third week, something unlocked. Ideas began flowing. Stagnant energy moved through. Within 12 months, she'd finished a complete manuscript. Today, she's a published author whose words reach thousands of people, all because she treated the small as sacred. Then there was someone who felt disconnected from his physical body, carrying shame about how far he'd drifted. He didn't purchase equipment, he didn't hire a coach, he simply started walking. 10 minutes each day, regardless of weather, shoes laced, music quiet, movement honest. Not to lose weight, not to impress others, but because his body had grown tired of waiting for the perfect plan. That small daily walk expanded to 30 minutes. Then he added hydration. Then different food choices emerged. 2 years later, not only had he transformed physically, he began guiding others through the same process. Not through punishment or force, through presence. Or consider the young woman who stopped buying her daily coffee, not from guilt, but because she wanted to teach herself that energy redirection mattered. Each day, she transferred those $6 into a savings application. She watched it accumulate, not just in currency, but in self-respect. That habit evolved into learning about financial investment, reshaping her relationship with money, and eventually gathering enough resources to launch her dream business. All from one small choice, repeated with clarity. What connects these stories? None of them began with perfection. They began with decision, a choice to anchor energy into form, not once, but continuously. Because in the quantum field, consistency equals identity. And identity is what collapses potential into manifestation. The error most people make is waiting to feel motivated. But motivation is unreliable. It's loud, it's bright, and it extinguishes quickly. Sacred habits don't depend on motivation. They depend on meaning. You infuse your habit with meaning by choosing it even when it doesn't feel dramatic, especially when it doesn't. That's when it integrates into your field signature. The universe isn't tallying your repetitions. It's attuning to your rhythm. So the question becomes, can you be trusted with the small? Because if you can, the field will trust you with the large. Now, what we've explored today about the quantum ripple effect is really just the entry point into a much deeper system of frequency mastery. If you're feeling the resonance of these concepts, if something inside you is recognizing this as truth, I've created a complete guide that takes you through the entire spectrum of conscious transmission. It's called Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery, and it walks you through the 9 master frequencies, from breaking free from survival static to embodying the silent frequency of pure witness consciousness. It's linked in the pinned comment below. There's a reason ancient spiritual practices center on repetition. Chanting, breathwork, lighting candles, bowing. It's never about the physical act itself. It's about the frequency that act generates. The way it declares, I remember my essence. I am here again. I am present again. I choose again. Over time, that becomes gravitational. You become a magnet for aligned timelines. This is why your 5-minute meditation holds significance. Why staying hydrated matters. Why pausing mindfully before reacting is quantum work. Because each act is a ripple. Each ripple is a recalibration. And each recalibration moves you closer to the version of you that already exists, who lives not in intensity, but in vibrational mastery. So if you're still waiting for that dramatic breakthrough, look in the opposite direction. The doorway might be disguised as a walk around your neighborhood, a decision to breathe consciously before sending an email, a journal entry when your mind protests. What's the point? And in what's coming, you'll learn how to identify the precise ripple that unlocks your next evolution, your quantum trigger, and how to repeat it with intention, frequency, and grace. Because your next transformation won't announce itself loudly. It will arrive quietly, like a whisper, like a rhythm, like a stone entering water. You're not undisciplined. You're not inconsistent. You're not damaged. You're simply conditioned, like most of humanity, to underestimate the invisible power of repetition. We've been trained to pursue transformation through extremes. Big moves, loud choices, dramatic shifts. But genuine transformation is quiet. It happens in spaces where nobody's watching. It happens through the signal you broadcast when there's no audience. And that signal is encoded in your habits. Not the ones you perform when motivation strikes, but the ones you honor when nothing feels magical. This is where the concept of the quantum trigger becomes essential. Unlike conventional productivity thinking, which treats habits as isolated behaviors, quantum habits are vibrational instruments. They're not just routines. They're tuning forks that recalibrate your energetic field. They're not just about what you do, but how you do it and who you're being while doing it. A quantum trigger is a micro-action that, when repeated with coherence, unlocks momentum across multiple timelines. It's not about doing more. It's about doing the precise small thing at the precise frequency until reality responds. You don't need to overhaul your entire existence. You need to locate your quantum ignition point. One habit, one ripple, one anchor that, when honored daily, shifts the gravitational center of your being. So how do you find it? You begin by observing yourself gently, without judgment. You track what genuinely energizes you. Not stimulation, not dopamine spikes, but authentic resonance. Maybe it's a 60-second breathing practice before checking your phone. Maybe it's writing 3 things you're grateful for each night. Maybe it's placing your hand on your chest and speaking your new identity aloud. These aren't tasks. They are vibrational anchors. They're not about discipline. They're about declaration. Here's what most people misunderstand. They think their challenge is inconsistency. But the truth is, they've simply never chosen a habit that feels alive, a habit that transcends obligation, a habit that feels like returning home to your higher self. That's what a quantum trigger is. It's a portal, and once opened, it doesn't just alter your next 5 minutes. It shifts the field surrounding your entire life. Now here's where most people abandon the path. They start the habit. They feel good. But after a few days, life becomes loud again. Old patterns return. The mind whispers, "This isn't working," and they stop. Not because they're weak, but because they've been conditioned to expect instant confirmation. But in the quantum realm, the ripple exists long before the wave becomes visible. That's why the sacred practice of building quantum habits isn't just action. It's trust. It's maintaining the signal long enough for the field to match it. And if you're wondering whether 1 minute is enough, let me be direct. 1 minute of genuine presence carries more power than 10 hours of unconscious action. 1 minute fully inhabited can alter your trajectory, because in that minute, you're no longer reacting. You're creating. You're not requesting change. You're embodying it. So if you've been trapped in overwhelm, stop reaching for more. Reach for smaller but deeper. And here's your starting ritual. Select one habit that requires less than 2 minutes, one that aligns with your next level self. Then ask yourself, can I approach this today as if it already matters? Can I show up to this small act as if it's sacred? If your answer is yes, you've just activated your ripple. Repeat it tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Not for results, but for resonance. Because when the field recognizes consistency without desperation, it opens. That's when timelines bend. That's when synchronicities multiply. That's when you become a vibrational match to a future that once felt unreachable. And if you're ready to ground this, I invite you to anchor it in the field right now. Take a moment and comment below with this phrase. One small shift, one big ripple. Let that be your declaration to yourself, to the field, to the future version of you who already lives inside that ripple. Let that comment carry the weight of your next decision. Let it be the first wave in a reality that's already forming around you. Because you don't need to move mountains. You just need to shift your signal. And that begins with one small, sacred action, repeated until the universe starts echoing it back. In what comes next, we'll take this ripple deeper, exploring how the field doesn't measure what you do, but how you hold what you do, and how your frequency, not your effort, becomes the language through which your reality speaks back to you. There is no such thing as a silent action. No gesture ever truly goes unnoticed. Every moment you live, the field is listening. It doesn't need your words. It doesn't respond to your struggle. It only reads frequency, and the frequency of your habits, your choices, your micro-decisions, that is the authentic language of creation. We tend to believe the universe notices us when we shout, when we cry out in desperation, when we finally do something significant enough to deserve acknowledgement. But the truth operates at a much subtler level. The quantum field isn't seeking drama, it's tuning into coherence. And coherence isn't loud, it's precise, it's grounded, it's consistent. So when you pause to breathe before reacting to someone, the field registers it. When you replace a moment of judgment with silence, the field expands. When you choose presence over distraction or gratitude over complaint, the field shifts. These moments don't impress the ego, but to the quantum fabric of your life, they are seismic. Why? Because the field doesn't follow intensity. It follows integrity. Your reality doesn't transform when you push harder. It transforms when your signal becomes stable. And that stability is built through repetition, not of action alone, but of alignment. The repetition of becoming the version of you who no longer requires external validation to maintain an internal frequency. This is where we begin understanding the deeper spiritual mechanics behind the quantum ripple effect. It's not just about doing something small every day. It's about being someone authentic every moment. Not perfect, not enlightened, but honest, present, attuned. That's what the field responds to. Not your effort, but your embodiment. Let's break this down practically. Imagine someone who spends 10 minutes each morning repeating affirmations with tension in their body, checking their phone between statements, worried whether it's working. They might be saying all the correct words, but their field is broadcasting dissonance. Now imagine someone else who simply stands still for 1 full minute each morning, hand on heart, breathing into gratitude without needing to perform. Their action is smaller, but their frequency is clear. The second person will collapse a more aligned reality, not because they did more, but because their signal was coherent. This is the paradox of quantum manifestation. The field responds faster to those who aren't attached to outcomes. Why? Because attachment generates static. It clogs the wave with doubt. But presence, genuine, consistent presence, amplifies clarity, and clarity collapses potential into form. Here's the truth you've always known, but perhaps forgotten. You are already broadcasting. The question is, what is your signal communicating? Are you telling the field, I don't trust this. I need proof. I'll believe it when I witness it. Or are you saying, I am here. I remember. I am aligned. Regardless of appearances, the ripple effect begins inside that choice. That subtle, sacred choice to remain with your truth, even when the external world offers no validation. Especially then, because that's when the field begins echoing your internal state through external shifts. And those shifts, they may not arrive as fireworks. They may appear as quiet clarity, a release of tension, a moment of grace, a door that opens silently. But make no mistake, they are coming. Because the field is always listening. It listens to how you care for yourself in private, how you breathe before speaking, how you enter a room, how you treat your body when nobody's watching. It listens when you choose not to scroll mindlessly, when you drink water with intention, when you stop diminishing your light. These aren't lifestyle preferences. These are field instructions. Let me share something about field instructions that most people never consider. Your subconscious mind processes approximately 11 million bits of information per second, while your conscious mind processes only about 40 bits per second. That means the vast majority of your reality is being shaped by signals you're sending unconsciously. Your habits, especially the ones you perform on autopilot, are communicating with the field constantly, far below your conscious awareness. This is why changing your life isn't primarily about conscious effort or willpower. It's about reprogramming the unconscious signals. And the most effective way to reprogram unconscious signals is through conscious repetition. When you consciously choose a behavior repeatedly, it eventually becomes unconscious. It becomes automatic. It becomes part of your default programming. But here's the crucial part. That unconscious behavior continues broadcasting its frequency even when you're not thinking about it. This is the real power of quantum habits. Once they become unconscious, they're working for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even while you sleep. They're sending signals to the field continuously, reshaping your reality without requiring any conscious effort. Think about someone who's developed an unconscious habit of gratitude. They don't have to remember to feel grateful. It happens automatically. They wake up, and gratitude is their default state. They eat a meal, and appreciation arises naturally. They interact with someone, and thankfulness flows without effort. That person is broadcasting a gratitude frequency constantly, unconsciously, powerfully. The field has no choice but to return circumstances that match that frequency. Compare that to someone who consciously tries to practice gratitude for 5 minutes each morning, but the other 23 hours and 55 minutes of their day are filled with unconscious complaint, criticism, and dissatisfaction. Which signal do you think the field responds to more strongly? The 5 minutes of conscious gratitude, or the nearly 24 hours of unconscious negativity? This is why the work of making your quantum habits unconscious is so vital. Not so you can stop being conscious, but so your consciousness can focus on new levels while your foundation runs automatically. It's like learning to drive. At first, you consciously think about every action. Check mirror, signal, accelerate, brake. But eventually, driving becomes unconscious. Your body does it automatically, while your consciousness is free to navigate, plan your route, enjoy the scenery, or have a conversation. Your quantum habits work the same way. At first, you consciously practice presence. You remind yourself to breathe. You deliberately choose gratitude. You intentionally pause before reacting. But over time, with consistent repetition, these practices become unconscious. Presence becomes your default. Gratitude arises automatically. Pausing before reacting happens without thought. And then your consciousness is free to create at higher levels, while your foundation continuously broadcasts aligned frequencies. And the more precise your instructions become, not through force, but through authenticity, the more magnetic your field grows. That's when people say, "I don't know what it is about you, but something shifted." That something is coherence. That something is quantum. So if you've ever wondered, why isn't this working yet? Ask not what you're doing. Ask how you're being. Ask whether your habits carry the signature of your future self or the residue of your old story. And if it's still unclear, remember this. The field is not testing you. It's attuning you. It's not withholding. It's preparing. It's not ignoring. It's mirroring. You don't need more evidence. You need more presence. If this content is touching something in you, if it's awakening a frequency you've been searching for, then I invite you to subscribe, not just to this channel, but to this movement. Because this isn't about consuming content. This is about joining a space where consciousness shifts, where people remember their power, where transformation becomes a shared frequency. Subscribe to stay coherent, to stay elevated, to stay connected to this conversation that's reshaping how we understand reality itself. And in what remains, we'll return to the origin of the ripple, your daily now, and visualize the future self that already exists because of these choices. The legacy that begins when you stop performing and start vibrating as the one who already knows. Every wave you've ever transmitted into the field continues to echo. Not one act of alignment has been lost. Not one breath of presence ignored. Even the moments you believed were wasted, the days you failed, the steps you skipped, the mornings you woke feeling numb, they were not the end. They were part of the ripple, part of the rhythm, a reminder that your becoming is non-linear. But it is certain. There's something profound about understanding that your past efforts never disappear. Every time you chose differently, even if you couldn't maintain it, you created a template. You showed yourself what's possible. You demonstrated that you're capable. And that template remains in the field, accessible anytime you choose to return to it. I want you to think about all the times you started and stopped, all the habits you began with enthusiasm and abandoned weeks later, all the promises you made to yourself and broke. Most people carry these as evidence of failure. They point to their history and say, "See? I always quit. I'm not consistent. I can't change." But that's not what those experiences are. They're not evidence of failure. They're practice rounds. They're research. They're your consciousness experimenting with different frequencies, discovering what resonates and what doesn't. Every time you tried and stopped, you learned something. Every time you started over, you refined your approach. Every time you fell and got back up, you strengthened your resilience. And here's what's really happening in those moments. Every single time you choose alignment, even briefly, you're creating what physicists call a probability wave. You're opening a pathway. You're establishing that this version of reality exists for you. And that pathway never fully closes. It may become faint if you don't travel it regularly, but it never disappears. This is why returning to a practice is often easier than starting it initially. The pathway already exists. You're not creating something new. You're reactivating something that's already there. You're not starting from zero. You're returning to a frequency you've already touched. So if you're someone who's started and stopped many times, please understand this. You haven't been failing. You've been building. Every attempt has strengthened the pathway. Every return has made the frequency more accessible. And this time, when you choose again, you're not starting fresh. You're standing on the foundation of every time you tried before. Legacy doesn't begin when the world recognizes you. It begins when you begin recognizing yourself clearly again and again through the tiny, repeated lens of sacred choice. This is the moment you realize that your reality has never been random. It has always been an echo of what you've practiced quietly, consistently, vibrationally. And there's something else about legacy that deserves attention. You're not just creating a legacy for yourself. You're creating a legacy for everyone who witnesses you. Every time you choose differently, you give permission for others to do the same. Every time you break a family pattern, you free future generations. Every time you choose presence over reaction, you shift the collective field. Your quantum habits don't just affect your personal reality. They affect everyone in your sphere of influence. Your partner feels it. Your children absorb it. Your coworkers sense it. Your friends respond to it. You're not just transforming yourself. You're transforming the field around you, and everyone in that field is affected. This is the ripple effect at its most profound level. One person's shift creates permission for another's shift, which creates permission for another's, which spreads outward in ways you'll never fully track or measure. You might never know that your decision to pause before reacting inspired someone watching to do the same, and their pause prevented a conflict that would have devastated their family. You might never know that your commitment to morning presence gave someone else permission to honor their own needs, which led them to a breakthrough that changed their entire trajectory. The field is interconnected. Your frequency doesn't stay isolated to you. It broadcasts outward, touching everyone and everything around you. This is why your personal transformation is never just personal. It's collective. It's evolutionary. It's part of something far larger than your individual experience. There is a version of you in a future so real it's already calling to you, who doesn't need to force anything anymore, who doesn't seek proof, who doesn't rush the process. That version of you doesn't live in reaction. They live in resonance. They don't beg the universe for alignment. They are the alignment. And every small choice you make now, every conscious act, every micro habit of coherence is a message to that self. I'm coming. I remember. I am arriving. But what happens when you stop sending that signal? When you forget your power and let the old noise overtake you? Nothing is broken. You don't start from zero. You just pause the wave. And the moment you return to presence, it resumes. This is the quantum gift of rhythm. It doesn't require perfection. Only return, only remembrance, only presence. So if you've ever doubted whether your small habits matter, if you've ever felt like your actions were too insignificant to shift anything, let this be your remembering. Every sip of water taken in gratitude, every breath before speaking, every choice to stretch instead of scroll, every step you take that nobody sees, they are not small. They are not nothing. They are seeds planted in the field, watered with frequency, and destined to bloom in futures that your current self can't yet imagine. Because the version of you who already succeeded wasn't born from one breakthrough. They were shaped by waves, tiny, sacred, invisible ripples that began here, right now. The more of us who embody this truth, who live from this frequency, who choose presence over performance, the more the world reflects that truth back to us. This isn't just personal transformation. This is collective evolution. We are all part of the same field, all sending ripples that touch each other in ways we can't fully comprehend. Consider rewatching this video tomorrow morning, or any morning when you need a reminder of the power you hold in your smallest choices. Or share it with someone who's struggling with consistency, who feels like their small efforts don't matter. When you share quantum consciousness concepts like these, you're not just passing along information. You're creating an energetic bridge. You're reinforcing these principles in your own field while simultaneously activating them in another's. The act of sharing becomes its own ripple, expanding awareness in ways that benefit everyone it touches. So before you go, take one more breath. Place your hand on your heart. And remember, you are not building your life from scratch. You are remembering it into form. One ripple at a time, one sacred habit at a time, one signal at a time. This is not self-improvement. This is quantum identity. This is not a routine. It's your resonance, and your resonance is your reality. Drop one word in the comments below that captures the energy, the intention, the transformation you're choosing right now. Just one word. Let it be your energetic signature to the quantum field. Let it be your declaration. And if you haven't already, subscribe not just to stay connected, but to stay aligned with this frequency, with this space, with this movement of people who understand that transformation begins in the invisible, in the small, in the consistent ripple that becomes an unstoppable wave. Let the field feel your choice. Let the universe reflect your signal. Now, what we've explored about quantum ripples and small habits is inseparable from understanding who's actually creating those ripples, because you're not who you think you are. You're not the thoughts in your head or the voice that narrates your experience. You're the awareness observing all of it. This changes everything about how you transmit frequency, and I break down exactly how the observer operates in your reality in the next video. Watch it now to discover the true nature of who you are beyond the mind.